After studying the photographs, Albina gathered her tools. She smoothed a blanket onto her table, laid the cups on it, and prepared to start. She didn't realize until that moment how much her grip had tightened. Her knuckles were white, and when she exhaled, her fingers curled around the tools. It was not enough to simply touch these objects again. She had to do so carefully. Taking a deep breath, she lowered her arms and let her fingers find purchase, sure, steady, slow. As she worked, she watched videos, following instructions, dipping broken edges into colored powder and letting it harden into place. Her touch was no longer angry or frustrated. It was deliberate. And in that, she found a strange kind of freedom. When her grandmother had passed, her family had suggested throwing away the teacup. After all, it was only a thing. Albina hadn't listened. Now she understood why. A thing could become more than an object. It could speak across generations. As the days went on, the chipped cup joined her on her desk. At first, it sat among shavings and scraps, a jumble of colors and textures. But slowly, as she practiced, she arranged her materials more methodically. The powders, neatly labeled and organized, the brushes, the clamps, the sponges, everything she needed to mend. Even her unfinished pieces found their places, her half-dried cylinders, the cups waiting for glaze, the bowls ready to be fired. All of it gained order, becoming a part of her process. Her visitors started noticing. Delivery workers lingering at the door, asking about the arrays of colors, the methodical arrangement of tools, the half-finished pieces that somehow seemed complete unto themselves. Strangers passing by who stopped to look at her open door or to peer in when they saw her talking to someone. And her landlord, once a year, commenting on how well her place looked, the way everything fit together. At first, these interactions made her tense. She had not planned them, she had not prepared, and she wanted to shut her door, to turn away, to return to her work. But something held her there. Perhaps it was the unfamiliar feeling in her chest, lighter than fear, warmer than irritation. Or maybe it was simply that these encounters were not unplanned. She didn't have to pretend to be something she wasn't. She could be exact, yes, but she could also be welcoming. She could be precise and warm, Albina. Her scales were expanding, not breaking. It was strange. And yet nothing else in her life changed. She still awoke at 6 May, still made her pots with relentless focus. She still greeted strangers at the door, then returned to her work. But now she thought differently. She approached things with nuance. She learned to make room for the unexpected, to accept the possibility that some cracks would not fit together cleanly, that some edges might be too jagged to mend. She also learned that something new could emerge from imperfection. Her pots continued to evolve. Some retained their severity, their adherence to geometry and balance. Others bloomed into new forms. A pot was no longer just a pot. It could be a rising sun, a burst of color, a vessel that had broken itself open to reveal what lay within. When she entered a show at a local gallery, the owner remarked, "I don't think we've ever had anyone like you. You're so precise, so exacting, it's wild." And Albina thought, I am still exact. I am still exacting. But I have learned to allow myself to be wild too. As time went on, her life slowly shifted. In the evenings, she found herself taking longer routes home, not so that she could see more of the world, but so that she could talk to the people she met along the way, learning their names, hearing their stories, sharing bits of hers. Once, she helped a woman find her lost cat. Another time, she gave directions to a tourist. A third time, she even sat down and talked with a street performer about his music. One evening, a man who had been in her building for months finally introduced himself. He had a dimpled smile and eyes that crinkled at the corners, which meant he laughed a lot. And after he moved into his apartment, he began bringing her food, pad thai and kimchi fried rice and chewy cinnamon rolls. Then he brought her tea, hibiscus, and green tea, and spicy black tea, each one hotter than the last. On one of those evenings, after Albina had finished mending a piece of pottery and was cleaning her tools, she heard a knock at the door. It was him. He had 2 teacups in his hands, both chipped, both mismatched, both imperfect. "Can you fix these?" he asked. "I found them in my apartment when I moved in. I think they were here before. I don't know if they're valuable, but I don't want to throw them away. So I thought maybe you could give them a try." He handed them to her, and Albina looked at them, then at the man. His eyes were bright and expectant. "I suppose I could try," she said. And he smiled, showing the dimple on his cheek. Perfect. And then he left her alone with the teacups and her tools. Later that night, after she had cleaned her brushes and put away her paints, Albina walked around her apartment. She stopped in front of the shelves, the tables, the cabinets, and everywhere she saw signs of her existence. Not just her pristine vases and pots, but the man with his crooked grin. The stains on the rug, the spots on the counters, the lines on her windows, the cups on her shelves. Everything had a story now. Nothing was empty. Nothing was cold. That evening, before she went to sleep, Albina did not count the minutes between darkness and dawn. She did not fret about the alignment of her pillows. She did not straighten the handles on her tools. Instead, she dreamed of teacups and hibiscus skies, of hands that reached across distances, of mending and making, of borders that blurred and hardened, of edges softened with patience.